So, instructional strategies using acquisition, meaning making, transfer, learning principles should lead to understanding, transfer, and retention. Now, the primary aim of OBE is to facilitate the desired changes within the learners by increasing knowledge, developing skills, and positively influencing attitudes, values, and judgment. Okay, so for knowledge, we know that. For skills, yes, the procedures, the processes, the attitudes, the positive, of course, positive attitudes, positive judgments. Okay. Now, in OBE, we talk about competencies. We should be able to identify the competencies we want our students to acquire. Now, what is a competency? It is a statement of a set of related knowledge, skills, and attitudes required to successfully perform a task that supports the desired program outcomes through a course or series of courses. So those learning outcomes are actually competencies, and they are made up of knowledge, skills, and attitudes they should demonstrate. And the Bloom's taxonomy is still there. No? Of course, we have the revised taxonomy by Anderson and Prathwohl, where it talks about creating, instead of just stopping at evaluation, it talks about creating. We have to make sure that in the competencies that we identify, we are able to articulate this, no? That the analysis should be there, evaluation should be there, the creative thinking, no? Creation should be there. Okay. As an example, for example, we want this competency among the students. We have that topic on mathematical reasoning in mathematics in the modern world. And we have that particular topic on inductive and deductive reasoning. Okay? It includes deductive arguments. And we want our students to be able to prove the validity of a given argument. Okay, so that is the competency. Now, so the knowledge is they should be able to know and remember the types of propositions, the rules of replacement, the deductive arguments, rules of inference, steps in proving the validity of an argument deductively. That is at the knowledge level. No? For the skills, they should be able to symbolize propositions, apply the appropriate rules of replacement and rules of inference to draw statements from the given premises, analyze the steps to be taken to arrive at the desired conclusion. But we don't stop there. We want to articulate also the attitudes. Patience, thoroughness, and enthusiasm in going through the process, the deductive process, and in generating the desired conclusion. So that is an example of a competency made up of knowledge, skills, and attitude. Okay. Now, at this point, I would like to get the help of my research assistant and former student, Mr. Jojo Pasage, who did a research on problem posing. Actually, I have been encouraging my students to do research in problem posing as early as the 2002. I think that was the first thesis produced by my students on by one student on problem posing, but it's not so popular among teachers. No? And I'm glad that Mr. Jojo Pasage took interest in problem posing. Now, I would like to share the stage with him and explain to us the competency that he tried to develop in his particular thesis on problem posing.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sonar Ruz with Dr. Limjap with me. Problem posing is the generation or formulation of a problem from a given problem situation. And a competency that could be developed here would be to pose word problems on marginal analysis and optimization that are viable. Actually, my research was done at CSB, so I had an intact class and I considered only about 20 of my students. And the knowledge that they are supposed to acquire would be to know first and second derivatives of a function, first and second derivative tests, and relative extrema, and the concept of marginal analyses. And then the skills required would be to apply the derivative of a function in the concept of marginal analysis in interpreting, and making use of the first or second derivative test to determine the number of units that will either minimize the cost or maximize the revenue and the profit. And the attitudes that have to be manifested after doing these problems would be to be able to create problems and persevere to complete the task with workable or viable results.
Okay. Now, what do I want to say? In OBE, it is a simplified UPD. You saw how complicated the templates are of UPD. This time, all you need to do is be able to identify the competencies of the students by looking at the knowledge they have to acquire, the skills, and the attitude. So at this point, I want to invite all of you to do an exercise on writing competencies. Now, I understand books were distributed yesterday. Is that right? So, do you have your books with you? Ay, wala. Ako, may excuse sila. Anyway, alam ko, sigurado ako, alam na alam mo yan. Anyway, okay. Let's have this first exercise. What set of related knowledge, skills, and attitudes are required to successfully perform a task that supports this particular learning outcome? This is a learning outcome in the syllabus, in the mathematics, in the modern world of DLSU. So, the competency is to be able to appreciate and apply the concepts in consumer mathematics by proposing investment strategies. Okay. Now, I want you to think of the knowledge they need, the information that they need to be able to achieve this outcome, this learning outcome, the skills that they need, no? And of course, the attitude. Now, I will be distributing bond papers and some dental pens, but please return them. You may work with your seatmate, seatmate na lang, in one row, the whole row.
Appreciate.
But I think for this particular case, this can be quick. So what knowledge or information the students need for this particular outcome? Anybody? Investment strategies, knowledge.
Oo. Anong topic daw ang
Anybody? Sige na. Tayo-tayo lang naman. Some of you are my students, so I will start calling. Mark is here, and I saw him, and I think I would like to call you for a recitation. Mark, gusto mo? Sige na. Oh, ayan, nandito yung teacher mo ngayon. Is investment. Investment strategy.
ano daw topic natin?
Ano kailangan nila? Information. Anybody? Si Wilson nandito din. Nakita ko. Ayun, no?
Knowledge, definition, skills, interpretation, and then
Yes.
attitude, application, kundi yung behavior of investing.
Yes, knowledge. You can use the microphone.
Desire, patience, show desire in investing. Tagal ko pa lang kami sa 2 years ko na may ginagawa. Walang pa speaker yun kaya
Good morning, ma'am. I think for the knowledge, the students must be able to understand the computation or the concept of the interest from compound to simple interest. Simple interest and compound interest. For the skills, the student must be able to compute and compare the differences of the interest earned for a certain investment. Yes, sir. Compute the interest and also to compare, be able to compare the difference in terms of the rates after a period of time.
Decision making, the attitude, to be able to decide.
And for the attitude, I think the learning I have yesterday, the student must be will take the risk of investing their money. That will be all. Thank you.
Would you like to add to the list? Yes, ma'am. I forgot. Yeah. You did not introduce yourself. Please introduce yourself.
Once again, good morning. I am Andrew Felix Esconan IV, and I came from Surigao del Sur State University.
Surigao.
Thank you for that.
Good morning, I'm Jennifer from Quezon, University.
Okay. I was there 2 weeks ago. I think 3 weeks ago.
For knowledge, I think stocks and bonds. And for skills, they must know how to differentiate between stocks and bonds. About. And then for the attitude, really for risk-taking pa. And which will benefit more. Ano po yung mas marami kami na ma-receive.
Okay. Okay. So risk-taking, no? For the attitude, would you like to add some more? Yes, sir. Yes, for the attitude.
From Surigao del Sur State University. Younger in age with Sir Andrew. Just call me Robbie, ma'am. For the attitude, ma'am, the students should understand or appreciate the value of thrifting.
Appreciate it. Show ng
Yes, would you want to add some more? Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Mrs. Cicero Ares from the University of Cebu Main Campus.
Wow,
This is
from
my,
Cebu this night.
at one lang ma'am because I have the book with me.
So Luzon, Mindanao, then Visayas.
Yes, for consumer ma'am, I have our investing, savings, dimension naman ni ma'am ang stock and bonds, then borrowing, loans and loan repayment, credit cards,
Kompleto
taxes,
siya.
and
Kompleto,
product
okay.
tagging.
Okay, good.
The skills, problem solving skills,
Yeah, okay.
attitude ka mo na lang puno. Thank you.
kayo na lang bahala.
Sige, attitude down. Okay. So, yes. Okay. Okay.
Sinasabi ko.
So, wait.
Wise decision to invest in stocks or bonds or in intangible assets.
Okay. Yes.
For the skills, analytical and critical thinking skills, specifically on what-if analysis.
Okay. So, being open to the many possibilities. What if? And also, it comes with the list. What if this happened? Okay. Okay, thank you for that. I wrote some. Okay, another exercise, but let's just have it this later. No? I want to proceed. I want to proceed first. This will be our exercise later. You will have to identify the competencies that the student should demonstrate to upon completion of any of the following topics. This was mentioned earlier. Okay. So, because we have to identify the knowledge, skills, and attitudes for every competency. Now, we have identified institutional outcomes, program outcomes, course outcomes using the OBE language, and I'm saying that the OBE language is a lot simpler than the UBD language, so please embrace it. So, we are at the assessment and evaluation part. So, I'm sure you know this very well. that when you assess learning, you want to know how well the students perform in class. And that assessments consist of the paper and pencil assessment and alternative assessment and authentic assessment. Now, but it's important that we identify the standards, and that is why we have the learning outcomes and the competencies. And we identify that in the learning plan for instruction. So, what is evaluation? It's putting together all those assessment results that you have to be able to evaluate how much the students learn. It could be formative, that is when you want to assess the progress at some intermediate point. It can actually be at the start of the semester. No? It could be at the early stages when you are introducing a unit, a particular unit topic. Now, of course, assessment should not always, only occur at the end. In fact, if your teaching is diagnostic, it should be done at the start, at the very start of the class, of the whole semester. Okay. Now, it can be oral or written because you want to find out the adequacy of the student's learning. It should inform instruction. It should tell you if your instruction is effective or not. Okay, so that's formative evaluation. It should provide the students and teachers feedback on the progress or lack of it at the early stages. Now, technology-enabled activities can be used as assessment instrument because we know how difficult it is to be giving marks to the assignments and sit works and the quizzes that we give our students. And it's good to know that there are ways of there are remedies for this difficulty that we encounter as teachers. And that is when we give technology-enabled activities. I'm sure you are familiar with the Moodle. I think CSP uses it. And Edmodo or the Blackboard. I think UST uses these. Many other schools. Salle uses IBLE. Okay. And there's the ELO. However, these are expensive and it looks very limited for mathematics quizzes and exams. No? It's so difficult to upload exams in the IBLE, in my experience. Okay, I'm not sure with Moodle and EU Blackboard. But this is another student of ours in science education. She's also a math major. I think she's also a student of the math department, Celine Sarmiento, who did a study, on the effectiveness of the use of this particular homework system, online homework system, the My Open Mathematics. And according to her, it is free, it requires internet access, runs smoothly with common internet browser, functions properly even using a tablet or smartphone, so does not require installation of any application, can be customized according to the need of the instructor, allows teacher to create their own set of items and question bank, or modify existing items and share it to other teachers. Okay. And in fact, she did an actual study. She gave a set of homeworks, created them for mathematics of accounting and finance, and then they are problem-solving type. Students enter their answer on the answer box. Students are given unlimited attempts for each each problem. However, for each attempt, they will answer a different version of the problem. So if they their answer is wrong, then they will have another attempt, and it gives a similar, parallel, no, but not exactly the same as the previous problem. So we call that attempt, feedback, reattempt. Okay. So it can provide randomized, algorithmically generated homework with automated grading of numerical and algebraic answers. So this is how it looks like. Allows students to enter algebraic expressions as answers and recognizes equivalent expressions. Okay. So in her study, she found out that students prefer using this online homework. And it increases the amount of time students spend for studying, is appropriate and convenient to use. And that attempt, feedback, reattempt feature motivated them and encouraged them to practice answering exercises. Homework given through My Open Math helped them prepare for exams. Okay. Now, diagnostic evaluation is different from formative evaluation in the sense that this time the focus is on the difficulties of the students, what the weakness of the students are. Weaknesses. So it's employed to ensure that a more for the source of errors through diagnostic teaching and testing is made. Now, we are very familiar with summative evaluation. It's at the end of the unit, of the academic term, and usually to help us decide if the student is successful in achieving the goals of the course. So it determines the degree of achievement of the desired results of the educative process. So for final marks and grades. Now, the concern with authentic assessment is instead of just giving objective questions, students are required to solve real problems. And this has been really articulated in OBE. We want our students to transfer their learning using real-world problems. We want to apply them to apply their knowledge and skills in authentic situations, because research shows that students should construct their own meaning of the world. Okay. So they should be given that environment where they will be able to apply what they learned in the real world. It promotes integration of curriculum goals, teaching, learning, and assessing. And because we have diverse students with different strengths and weaknesses, and different ways of demonstrating what they learn, so we have to use authentic assessment. What is important is we should be able to identify our standards, select the appropriate task, identify criteria for the task, and create the rubric. Okay. Now, for the authentic task, it could be product, it could be performance. So, if you remember the evidence stage 2 of UBD, it gives very specific template for performance tasks. Now, we don't have to do that in OBE. For the products, it could be essays, stories. This is possible, especially in the mathematics and the modern world. can make them do this. Because you will note that in most of the learning outcomes, it's about appreciation of the relevance of mathematics in our world and how it has helped us improve the quality of our lives. So all these are possible. For the performance, we can do this. We can have role playing, we can have oral presentations. As long as we are mindful of the goals that we set, the knowledge and skills they should demonstrate while doing role playing, then this is still a good task to design. And the rubric. Now, I'm sure you have been using rubrics. This is just a review. It consists of criteria and levels of performance. So it has at least 2 criteria. It gives characteristics of good performance. It assigns weights to each criterion. There should be levels of performance. There should be at least 2 levels. And the teacher should be able to distinguish between good and bad performance. It can be analytic when for each criterion the levels of performance are given. It can be holistic if it assigns level of performance by assessing it across multiple criteria. Okay. So, I'm going through, because I still have many days, I have to go fast. These emphasize applications, focus on direct assessment, use realistic problems, and encourage open-ended. It assesses doing, integration, knowledge, skills, activities, links with teaching activities, broadens the basis of assessment, assesses students' use of processes as well as So with OBE, we have to make sure that the affected domains touch. Their dispositions are considered. So it can be done within or outside the class, during or outside class, and then it can be conventional or it can be alternative. It's not a one-time deal in 1 hour or in 30 minutes. It can take long, like days and weeks. But most importantly, it should improve teaching and learning. Okay, because according to UBD, we should not just dwell on knowledge that is worth being familiar with. We also should deal with knowledge that are important to know and do, and deal with enduring understanding. But to assess that, we use the traditional quizzes and tests for the other aspects of learning. But for enduring understanding, we should use performance tasks and projects. Okay. Now, in UBD, the cognitive aspects are in explain, interpret, and apply. The attitude aspects are in perspective, empathy, and self-knowledge. So I will not go through this anymore. I'll just make sure everybody will have copies of this presentation. Okay. We will send them to you as long as you give them your email address. Did you give them your the website? Okay. This will be uploaded to the website. Okay. So see that I identified earlier, this is one example of the task. No? Make sure that it is multidisciplinary, it is linked to science, similar to this. So, as an example, this is a real-life problem. This is number one concern of the millennials. We are dealing with millennials. Our students belong to that generation. And in our survey, we found out that they are very conscious about these problems that we have regarding the environment, the climate change. Okay. So, carbon emissions raise global temperatures by trapping solar energy in the atmosphere. Global temperatures raised this way changes the growing season for food crops and threatens coastal communities with increasing sea levels. Therefore, carbon emissions affect people living in coastal communities. This is one example. And I'm sure you can give a lot more examples depending upon the place, your community, the concerns, the priorities in your community. And as an example of a rubric, okay, so if we rate from 1 to 4, 1, if not all the propositions in the argument were symbolized properly, consequently wrong inferences were generated from the propositions leading to a wrong conclusion. If 2, if they were able to symbolize, but then there were major errors in the inferences used. 3, they were able to symbolize, but there were minor errors, thus, again, not leading to the correct conclusion. Of course, here, since it is from 1 to 4, with 4 as the highest, then if the work is correct, then we give, it could be a weight, no? Or we can treat this as level 4. Okay. So, again, I have another example here. Very quickly, we would like to share with you how this particular assessment on problem posing was given in that particular thesis by Mr. Giorgio Casati.
In the research, there were 8 tasks that I made the students do, and this is one of the tasks. And if the profit function is determined by P of x, which is negative 0.25x squared plus 80x minus 20, students were required to write a problem that can be solved using the given situation. And one of the respondents gave this post problem. So these students are supposed to be a block of interior designers. So this was the post problem, and in the context of marginal analysis, the sale of 20 units of this type of pen is worth 40 pesos, and this could be interpreted as a change in profit as the number of technical pens would increase from 20 to 21, and computing the actual profit derived from the sale of the 21st technical pen, the result is 39.75, which is reasonably approximated by the marginal profit derived from the sale of 20 items, which is 40 pesos. And in my rubric, in the research, I designed a rubric which was adopted from Dr. Limjap's study and 2 educators from Taiwan. So I had category 1, which are problems with low complexity, which rely heavily on recall of facts and information or performance of specified procedure, so very algorithmic in nature, and these are supposed to be one-step or multiple-step word problems that are of drill type. Category 2 would merit those problems with moderate complexity involving mathematical representation of the situation in more than one way, and these are supposed to be one-step word problems that are of non-drill type. In category 3, these are supposed to be problems with high complexity involving mathematical representations of the situation in in more than one way. And when results are verified and computed, the result, the outcome is supposed to be real. It is in the real world. It's viable, workable. And this was my rubric. And so the type of problems would be drill or non-drill, and the procedures could be one step or multiple steps. So category 1 is given to those problems that are drill in nature but one step, and also drill in nature and multiple step, and non-drill. Category 2, non-drill one step and multiple step would be, category 3 would be non-drill multiple step. I found out in my research that there were lapses when students created those problems, because most of them created problems that when checked, the results are not viable. So these were overlooked. So some were categorized into, in fact, I had 0, category 0. These were problems that when given, the outright premise of the problem is not supposed to be really happening.
Okay, thank you. So, we're supposed to have an exercise, but I'm afraid we do not have time for it. So, some other time, when you invite me to your schools, I can do that. Anyway, for OBE assessment and evaluation, you should explore ways of modifying or expanding your current assessment procedures so that they are more aligned with outcomes set for mathematics in the modern world. You should ask, how should you phrase questions in the written exams or instructions performance tasks to express the explicit skills you require them to demonstrate a qualification for tasks? And what authentic assessment instruments can you use to accurately reflect the specific learning outcome set for mathematics in the modern world? And with that, I would like to thank you for your participation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Limjap, for that very informative talk. We'll give time for two questions, and we'll charge the overtime against the lunch break. Because there's 1 hour, we've allotted 1 hour and 40 minutes for lunch break. So we can take away maybe 40 minutes. So any question? Yes, please. Please approach the microphone and introduce yourself. And where you're from.
Good morning, I'm Miss Teresa Rial from College of CDU. My question is, should we really be concerned with the affective domain of the students, considering that they are really actually college students, and I believe college should already focus on the cognitive, and are the students the ones who should be able to adjust to the college level and not the professors?
Now, you should realize how important the values, the core values are to education. No? In fact, DLSU University, as an example that I gave, we are from CSB, takes pain in identifying those core values. And we have to make sure that the students really acquire them. Now, we have problems with our students in terms of intellectual honesty. We have problems regarding that. In terms of how serious they are in their desire to learn the particular subject matter. And what else? We also have problems with them when they come across challenging tasks. Not all of them are really that focused and that patient to learn what they should be learning. So we have to be very conscious about the fact that our students have to develop those values. Number one, for me, is intellectual honesty. We have students who still plagiarize, they cheat, because they have not imbibed that particular value. So we have to really make sure that that our students acquire those values and attitudes. Also, one important attitude is their attitude when they work with others. Are they really team players, or are they just riding on? No? Do they contribute to the team? Do they really listen to their teachers inside the class, or to their teammates? Do they? What kind of a team player are they? We have to articulate that. No? We have to articulate those values and among our students, and make sure that they acquire them in our course, especially in the mathematics course.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for the question. Answering the question. Any other question? Gutom na kayo. Okay, so if there are no more questions, could you please join me in thanking Dr. Limjap for that round. And I call on Dr. Mr. Danny Hoss, the chair of the mathematics department, to award the certificate.